Hey guys, welcome back to Game On. Matt and I are outside, socially distanced on the warm day.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're in November and it feels like it's May.
Could be wearing shorts. Hey, have you ever felt like if you were just playing in one game that you wanted to add elements from another kind of genre into that game?
That's how I live, actually. I'm always wanting to bring other genres into my day-to-day.
Well, we are going to go over some of that today because you have come up with some great ideas and some great inspiration to add other genres into your game that you're already playing. So let's get started.
Yeah, this is a favorite of mine, so I made Justin do this video. Cross-genre games. The idea of taking two sets of subject matter and mashing them together and somehow making them fit and work together and be interesting and be original is a favorite of mine. It's something that people try from time to time in games, and with varying degrees of success, people will write and produce these sorts of games. So we're going to talk about a couple that I like.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about some inspiration for things that could make games that people haven't actually written or produced or sold yet. But could be good fodder for homebrews, in my humble opinion.
Sounds fun. Let's get to it.
So, okay. In the box stock games, pre-written, pre-generated, Shadowrun is one of the games that I think of that takes genres and smashes them together. In fact, Shadowrun kind of wants to be a little bit of everything to everybody, which is usually a terrible idea, but somehow they manage to make it work pretty well. Like, I've played Shadowrun, which, for those of you who don't know, Shadowrun is cyberpunk crossed with fantasy races and magic. Okay, a little bit of sort of D&D style mixed into a Shadowrun or a cyberpunk universe. I've played it since first edition. I was a devotee of the FASA game company who first put it out back from BattleTech days in the 80s. So, but yeah, it works. You know, trolls and orcs and elves and all that kind of stuff, but also monofilament swords and machine guns. Which sounds like it would be ridiculous and a chaotic mess, but no, it actually works.
Yeah.
And dice pools, massive rolls of D6s and explosions and magic, and yeah, it's everything to everybody, but it works. So, and they keep producing it, right? There's a new edition that just came out a year or two ago.
Catalyst owns it now, I think.
Yeah, and it's changed to different companies, but managed to keep its essence pretty well. So I have the newest edition, and I have the first edition, and I recommend them both. So,
are there any other games that do that?
Well, not that, but the cross-genre thing, sure. And I've talked about these in a previous video. I'm not sure if it was a Halloween one or what it was, but Night's Black Agents.
Night's Black Agents, okay.
So that mishmash of spies and horror, vampire stuff, which, again, a little bit weird, but somehow it works. In fact, it's not the only game. I also mentioned in a previous video Necrescope, off the novels that they made a game of, that does the same thing. It plays with spies and vampire, horror, monsters, stuff. Those two genres, one of the reasons it works well is they don't have a lot of inherent overlap, so they don't step on each other very much. Like, they come at gaming from two very different worlds, so they each bring something unique to the table, and can be combined without being redundant, which I think is important when you're looking at a cross-genre type game. You know, you want to bring something new without kind of smothering what's good about the game that you're adding to.
Well, how about this? Is there any other kind of fictional works out there that we can use inspiration from to make our own games instead of just these pre-written ones?
Oh, hundreds. Absolutely. I'll go through a few of them right now, actually.
Awesome.
So yeah, while each of the examples that I mentioned of the pre-written games mix genres, there's a million different sort of fictional, inspirational works, books, movies, television shows, things like that, that to me make great fodder for smushing together your own sort of homebrew cross-genre game.
Okay.
So I've just recently discovered a series of novels by an author named Larry Correia, I think is how you pronounce his name. And the series of books is called the Grim Noir Chronicles, and sort of implied by the name, it's magic meets sort of noir, early 20th century mobster, 1920s era.
Okay.
Which is a weird mix. But again, kind of like Night's Black Agents, it brings together two genres that don't inherently have that much overlap. But if I were to characterize these novels, I would say they're kind of like Call of Cthulhu meets The Untouchables.
Okay.
So you've got, mobsters and G-men throwing hot lead and spells at each other.
Okay.
So there's the mythos of sort of Cthulhu and magic and things like that, but also sort of action mobster, which is fun. It's a unique mix.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be fun to be played in the Pulp Cthulhu.
Yeah, for sure. It lends itself to that perfectly. And again, time-wise, it's right in the sweet spot for Cthulhu too.
Yeah.
So that's what made me think of it.
Okay.
And I'm actually listening to them as an audiobook.
Oh, nice.
So they're kind of fun that way too, because you get the voices and it gives you like inspiration on how to role play in addition, or do NPCs in addition to the subject matter. So it's fun. But they have them as paperback novels too. But it's goofy, but it's fun.
Yep.
And goofy fun is sort of the theme for my next one too.
Okay.
This is a movie that I know you've seen. Probably a lot of people have seen. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's a good movie. I mean, it's fun. It's entertaining. But early 2000s, it kind of blends Mad Max style post-apocalyptic world with dragons.
Rain of Fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rain of Fire. If you've seen it and you hated it, lighten up. But yeah, so heavy hitters actors wise, Christian Bale before he was Batman.
Yep.
Matthew McConaughey all beefed up and buff, and Gerard Butler before anybody knew who the hell he was.
Can't get the images out of my head now. What I like about that movie is that, like you said, it's kind of goofy, but it's also like got this. It's really a dark undertone. But it doesn't feel like a horror movie.
No,
No.
It's bleak. It's the post-apocalyptic depression. The world is just trashed. And these people are scrabbling and trying to get by.
But that's such a fun kind of idea to play through.
Yeah. If I were to characterize it to me, it's like Twilight 2000 meets D&D.
Okay.
Because you got the dragons, you're battling sort of the apex predator of the D&D world.
Yep.
But you're doing it with the remnants of modern weapons, tanks, and guns, and whatever else. It could go bad, but it could also go kind of awesome if your players have the right mindset, right?
Yes.
They got to be adventurous. They got to not take themselves too seriously. But I feel like there's potential there. So I would give that one a shot. On a little more serious artistic note.
Okay.
Recently, HBO has made a big push with Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos stuff with their new series Lovecraft Country, which kind of transposes Cthulhu stuff into 1950s with post-World War II and racial tensions and social issues and stuff. It's HBO really kind of swinging for the fences, and by and large does a really nice job with it, I think. I wouldn't necessarily go with that for a cross-genre game. But what it brings up for me is that that's not the first time HBO has tried to take Cthulhu mythos and sort of bring it into a different era.
Go on.
One of my favorite movies, and this one I've lent to you, but I don't think you've watched yet, right?
No, not yet.
Okay. No, not blaming you, but maybe this will whet your
it's in
appetite.
the disk drive of the computer right now.
Yeah. So, back in 1991, one of the very first movies that HBO ever did was as an original film. was taking like noir detective, Raymond Chandler, Humphrey Bogart, Philip Marlowe, hard-boiled detective genre, and smushing it together with H.P. Lovecraft in a movie called Cast a Deadly Spell. Dark, but not that dark, because it's a little bit campy and a little bit funny. But it's really, really creative and original, and at a time when nobody else was doing this kind of stuff, back in 1991. So people who are into like our genre of films will recognize a ton of the people in it too, which is kind of fun. Fred Ward, you'll know him from Tremors. He's Earl in Tremors, and he's Remo Williams, and he's if you like good movies, he was Gus Grissom in The Right Stuff. But if you, I'll always think of him as Earl from Tremors. And then a bunch of other actors. David Warner, who's in a zillion horror movies from the 1970s, like The Omen and a bunch of the Hammer horror movies. And, he's in Star Trek movies. You see David Warner, you're like, it's that guy.
Yeah.
So he's in it. A very young Julianne Moore, who was like one of her very first movies. And then she went on to win Oscars and stuff. So she's like a legit actress. And then one of my all-time favorite character actors, Clancy Brown. Like, you guys will know Clancy Brown even if you don't know him by his name. He's Sergeant Zim in Starship Troopers. He's in The Mandalorian. He's a voice actor in like every video game and cartoon in the last 30 years. He's Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob. But like, I'll always know him as the Kurgan from Highlander. And he is one of the great villains of all time. And so he is in this, and he plays like this sort of heavy villain in this one, and is pitch perfect as that.
Nice.
But the premise is magic, Cthulhu with detective in 1940s LA, with all the darkness that can be kind of played with that. So it's again really original, and I think it's brilliant for a cross-genre game. I don't know system-wise. There's a lot of different systems you could use for that, but material-wise, so good.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you've given us some great examples, and those all sound really cool, some great fodder for what we can do. How can we take two different genres and seamlessly integrate them into our own games?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's going to take creativity and systems that fit with your subject matter. Like, the ones that I picked are just my sort of personal picks, but there's, countless others, hundreds of other types of material that could inspire this thing, or people could dream them up for themselves. But I think the key with a cross-genre is that each thing brings something different to the game that neither game steps on the sort of theme or the mechanics of the other game, so that they can kind of merge comfortably. And like, one of the best ways to do that is to analyze what different things in a game, what functionally they do. Like, how do they work in terms of mechanics, or as a mechanism in the game to create drama and have fun. So I kind of paraphrase Arthur C. Clarke here with his classic quote that says something to the effect of, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes.
I would say, in these purposes, is interchangeable with magic.
Ooh,
and there's where I would pivot, right? Any game system that depends on high technology, advanced technology, you can substitute in magic. And any game that has magic, you can substitute in high technology, and those two things do the same thing in a game. So that is your sort of inflection point, or your crossover point in any two systems. That's where to start. There are other ways to do it. There are other things that you can use to join games, but that's where I would go. And if you use that junction point, you're not going to ever step on one game from another.
Numenera does that very well with the Cypher system, because it can be technology or it can be magic. No one actually knows. So,
Right, because if it's advanced enough, you don't understand how something works, so you can really make it work any way you feel like.
Yeah.
Right? And but in terms of pushing storylines forward, they do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I would go if you're going to join two subjects. And the other thing is I would encourage everybody, be creative, be original. Like take things and try them that haven't been tried before, and see if they work. And sometimes you end up catching lightning in a bottle like Shadowrun did, and something that seems like it wouldn't work ends up working really well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I'm ambitious enough to try it. So this is a thing that I like, and I'm always thinking about how to smush together two games to make something unique out of.
Yeah, definitely. So. I like that idea. Just where you said that pivot point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it sounds like it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be when you first started talking about this.
I think the key is to analyze the elements of a game for what function they perform. And if you can do that, you can find those points in which you can find commonality or compatibility, and it doesn't end up being that hard. If you think about it in terms of the subject matter in and of itself, it can seem overwhelming, and how in the world are these two things going to work together? So yeah, so I would encourage everybody to try it, and send us messages, send us comments, and let us know if you've ever tried something like this or ever wanted to try something. You have a couple of games that you wanted to smush together and see how they work, or give us suggestions on what we should look at or try and share with the other viewers. Yeah, of course. And we're excited to hear from you guys. And if you have any other things that you'd like to see from us talk about, please let us know in the comments. Oh yeah, I mean, I cooked this one up all on my own, and that's what happens when you guys don't tell us what to talk about. You let me think of it, and then here you go. But honestly, no, give us your feedback. As always, we love to hear from you guys. We love this to be sort of an interactive enterprise. So let us know what you think. Exactly. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember to game on.